I'm Steve, and welcome to another exciting Elev8, where we sit down with some cool ass artists in this industry. First, we have this really cool ambassador program. You can join as an Elev8 doll or an Elev8 gent, and it's really awesome. You get to help us build Elev8. It's super unique, super special, and you're really a part of something special. Check out Elev8ambassador.com to learn more. Another cool thing we have is our Elev8 Veterans program. I'm really honored to be a part of it. Teresa helps run it, and it's super awesome. We get to rehabilitate and reacclimate veterans into society our way. And you know what? I think we're doing it right. Go check it out at Elev8veterans.com. Third, there's Elev8 Bingo. It's super cool, super fun, and we get to show you more of what we do. And on top of that, every game there's a chance to win $50 credits for Elev8glassgallery.com. Go check it out. And now, let's roll into this super awesome Elev8. Welcome to Elev8. We have Far Out Facets here. Thanks a lot for joining, man. I really appreciate it. My first question is, how did you get into glass blowing and all this stuff, and then facets? Like, you're doing a lot of crazy stuff right now. And
well, I first got into faceting when I was a local glass artist near me, Dirk Diggler. He was moving. Yeah, that's his name, Dirk Diggler Glass. He was moving, and he sold me his old like lapidary cold working wheel for like $1.50. And I built this big old, like, I drilled holes in it and built like an attachment, so for like one of those like China gem arms. So that's how I got my start. And then his apprentice at the time is actually Slink's Glass, Steve. He makes most of the wigwag milli marbles for me. So he was living across the street from me at the time, and like I wasn't able to like polish shit myself. You know what I'm saying? Like when I first had the grinding wheel. So like he'd give me his seconds and stuff to practice with, and then I'd have him like take them to his studio and like flame polish them for me. Basically, right. Like when I was just starting out.
Right.
So yeah, got a pretty lucky little start in. I had somebody who was like helping me out, like get things to facet. I started faceting before I ever was blowing glass.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of different to a lot of glass blowers. They either will start in like maybe soft glass and then move to the boral world, but you found the facet stuff. What drew you to the facet world more than the flame? Because now you blow glass as well, right? So
yeah. So I have my own studio, and I have my own studio to cold work in, and then I rent a bench space and I'm blowing glass. Yeah. I could afford to do it at the time. Like it was access, like I could have the like faceting wheel. Like I just wanted to get into like making stuff and doing it, you know what I mean? So I had to start somewhere, so to speak. I didn't know, like I didn't have a torch or anything like that, or like the know-how to begin like blowing glass, I guess. But I was always very, very interested in faceting. I remember like I used to watch like EPG videos where he'd like grind the old like, you know, he'd grind the like opal attachments for his rigs and stuff. And I was just like, oh, that's so cool. Like you can point it, you know, however you want. Like I wonder how that works, you know.
And you figured it out. Like holy mackerels, man. The faceting you do, I've never seen it so like stacked on stacked on stacked. It's just like, what? Like, how did you come across that style?
So that's, you know, happy incidents. So Steve, guy who was always lacing me up, Slink's Glass, always lacing me up with prep. He was pulling a wigwag milli cane, and he was making marbles like that before I even started faceting. So some of the first like marbles that I worked on were his, but like I hadn't figured out any of the like fractal stuff yet.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But like people kept asking me for those marbles anyways, because they had all the colors and they're like really bright. So yeah, a lot of the, and you'll see this when I start showing off some of the work, like the, you know, making multiple fractals. Like I'll do both sides of the wigwag, you know, and send them off. Like that's where the inspiration really came from, is that like shape I had been working on anyways, where it's got termination on the left side, right side.
Dude, it's just it's just so nuts when you see that stuff. So now you blow glass as well. Do you make the millies and the marble parts for all your stuff, and it's all you, or do you still work with blowers to create?
Yeah, I'm still doing a lot of blowers. I do some like I'll doing opal encasements for myself and then facet them. I got a couple of those and I'll show those. But I'm still most of the time doing I'm still like, you know, getting wigwag marbles from Steve and just cutting those up, you know what I mean? Just keeping it like classic and OG. Like I feel like that's like the majority, like the most classic of my work, you know what I mean? It's just like same marbles from the same dude.
Yeah,
You know?
even the wigwag millies, they're just mind blowing to me. I mean, I can do a wigwag, and I you know, just getting into glass was how did they get the color in there, and then how did they twist those lines up, and even
Yeah.
wigwag millies is next level, like for me, I think. And yeah, it's so neat that you're taking that classic, that the line work, the millie stuff, and then you're just like flinging it to like wherever. It's just crazy.
Yeah. That's the hope. Yeah. You know, so I always say it's like, didn't want to fight my happy accidents. You know what I mean? Like he was already making those marbles. People were asking for those marbles. Like, you know, I'll keep cutting those marbles. Like, yeah. Here, so I'll.
And working as a team like that as well, you probably can produce more overall stuff than if you had to make the millies and do all this. And you probably have a bigger palette of millies to work with other artists. And what you're doing, you probably have artists like screaming at you.
Well, yeah. So, okay, word. Well, I have no clue what it'll look like, but maybe, yeah.
So
this is what I started out doing. This was the OG one. This was, you know, pointing all the surfaces, like sizing them all for one of the terminations. You know what I mean? Yeah, they got it like on the left side or the right side.
Right.
Yeah. So like, you know, yeah, you got one and then the other one. And then it moved into this where I was taking, this is some like more recent work, you know, the center's the entire wigwag milli chip, and then the, you know, rings around it just show each of the terminations, and the ring around that show just like the terminations again. You know what I mean? And what's up?
Does that all have to do with, I know it's all the angles around there, but then does that also have to do with the I guess the other angles, like holy mackerels?
Yeah, so it's all relative. And the cool thing about you know, the marbles and the wigwag milli using like how, you know, he does the encasement, putting the stick in, doing the cold like snap off of it. Each one, and then you put that clear, you put that lens on it, each one comes out slightly differently. You know what I mean? Like each marble, each encasement of the like wigwag milli. So you kind of have to like finagle it a little bit for each one. Like there's like definitely set like numbers I use, but at the same time, it's like this one's a little bit bigger, you know, more clear, less clear, you know.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that's really cool about
you're not getting a perfectly round thing every time. Like this one's obviously is made to be at a kind of an egg or something.
No, actually I start with perfect marbles like almost every time. So a lot of what I do, and I'll show you that in a second, is I'll maintain sections of the curvature of the marble. So, and like craft that into the designs I make for them. Because that way people can still use them as slurper caps, right? Right. So like everything I'm going to show you today, it's only faceted on one side of it. You know what I mean? And I begin with, and that's one of the reasons I am, you know, definitely keeping using Steve for a while. I'm like still learning a lot on the torch, but he can provide me perfectly round marbles. You know what I mean? Where sometimes, you know, that's
it's funny because like, you know, a marble, it should just be so easy. They're fucking hard. And the bigger they get and the more color in there, they're just slightly things, you know. It's glass is hard.
Yeah, and you know, you can change the like you can change that encasement of the milli too. There's a lot of little like variables I give a lot of credit for nailing for me. Yeah, so then I got into doing this one is one of my favorite. So, you know,
I gotta even
the
know
left
what's going
termination.
on there.
Yeah. So this is when you're looking like dead on, like straight onto the milli chip. You know, you get your left termination on the left side and it's doing its fractal thing. You got your right terminations on the right side, like it's doing its fractal thing. But then you can still focus the center of this is the same like piece, this is the same marble, and that center all like wraps around separately. You know what I mean? So this is what I call like a 3-point refraction. It's like you got your one thing, you got your 2 layers on the outside, and then your single layer in the center.
And so I imagine this is all self-taught on this, how to figure this out and how to
Yeah. Yeah, there's no, you can't Google marble faceting. That's kind of what's fun about it. You know what I mean? You're really like ELC glass and like a lot of what Banjo like did and does, like, you know, they just had to figure that shit out themselves.
Right. Just nuts.
Yeah.
So you do a lot of
this,
go ahead.
Oh, no, I was looking for one that had, yeah, this is like a recent one. This has some uncut surfaces you can see in the center and then on the sides there.
Yeah.
And it's the, you know, the center focus. You've got the left side curving to the left and the right side curving to the right. And then when you focus in on one angle of it, it goes down and up. This is a new one I've been working on.
So when you say one that you're working on, how long does it take for you to do a marble like this and figure it out?
It definitely depends. So it takes me a long time to like cut them to get all of the, you know, visual projections and all of the layers to be lined up with each other. I'll have an idea and sort of like conceive and like think on it for a while. And like, and I'll typically do like a couple iterations. Like I've got like an owl design I've done a bunch of, like this one, and I change one aspect every time of it.
Is that to kind of just learn for yourself, or so they're slightly different? Are you still always perfecting what you're doing?
I'm trying. Yeah, I try to change one detail every time, at least, like for whatever I do. A lot of it's just like stemmed from feeding my own curiosity. Like I'm just genuinely curious what's going to happen when I do it this way or this way. I start at this, you know, do one way or the other. That's like the main driving force. And that's like why I struggle to take on custom work so much. Cause I like go in and if I'm not like sort of like testing a boundary or like doing something new, I'm just not motivated to work on it like that.
I love it. So what really, and has worked for you is like just testing your boundaries, pushing your limits every time. And right there, just pushing it every time is creating shit that's never been seen before. It's just out of this world. And yeah, it's just awesome.
Thank you.
So I imagine like a typical glass blower, you're working 12+ hour days doing this stuff, grinding.
Yeah. Like this really crazy one, like this one took me like 12 or 14 hours, like total. This was like a day and a half. And like, you know, it's hard because I'll say like, oh, I put a day into it, but if it's a 12-hour day, it's like a day and a half worth of work. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I definitely spent I had a lot of 60, 70, 80-hour work weeks this year. Yeah, that's kind of, you know, and that's like the difficult navigate, you know, that's where the glass blowing scene itself becomes very tricky because you gotta triangulate, you know, being like an artist and being like a brand, whatnot, like your own thing, and being like creating a product, you know,
right.
Like you still got to make something at the end of the day that somebody's gonna like pay you for, and that really fucking sucks, right? In a perfect world, we'd all get to just make whatever we want whenever, and there would always be a buyer to pay us what we wanted. But
well, and that would be a perfect utopian world, you know, and what a thing that we can in this country and others, where we do have technology and other people where we can have them farm for us. You know, because it would suck if we were all back to the beginning of just
Yeah.
orgasm and shit. Like,
I mean, yeah, trust me that like cold working glass and like faceting isn't like a super enjoyable process. Like everybody that gets to enjoy my work, like be glad that you don't have to go out to the field and facet the marbles, right? You know what I mean? You can hire a guy to do it.
right, right, right. That so man, that's just so nuts. I still can't even really understand like what's going on there. And so how long have you been doing this? When did you actually get into this?
About like a year and a couple months now. Like I started last summer. I was working out in my backyard on that like big thing. Um, but I sort of like recklessly quit my job like right after I got into it and like spent all of my time, like really threw myself into it, which is not something I recommend for people to do. Um, but I had like very little like expenses then. I was just living, one bedroom in this house, splitting that with my partner. And then like I didn't have a studio bench space at that time. You know what
Right,
I mean?
right.
But yeah,
So you were able to just put all the focus, you knew you had the passion for this and you knew there was an opportunity there. So you went for it. You
yeah. Oh
went
yeah.
and went.
I had a successful like I had a successful Etsy like sellout before I quit. I wasn't like completely reckless in it.
Right, right,
So
right, right.
stop doing that.
So man, I honestly thought you've been doing this for 10, 15 years. And, and you're like, oh
Oh shit, really?
yeah, because I
Oh
see
no,
it.
yeah.
I'm like, no, I love it, man. I just that's what I love about these interviews. We go out, we meet people, and it's just so amazing. And like now you're blowing my mind even more that you've only been in this for a year and a half. Your work is like out of control, phenomenal.
Thank
It's
you.
just nuts, man. It's just nuts. Um,
Definitely like never underestimate the ability of somebody who doesn't have a whole lot else going on, you know?
yeah, but you put yourself in that position because you could have kept the job, you could have done that. And I think that's the thing that I see a lot of artists is, they believe in them. They believe in themselves while nobody else at the beginning probably, it's hard to see that vision.
Oh yeah.
You
Oh
know?
yeah. It's like well, nobody else around you wants to tell you to quit your job, right?
No,
Like because
because how do they eat with their job?
yeah. And like, well, it's also like you don't want to see your friend fail. Like you care about your friend. You don't want them to quit their job and then that not work out for them. And that's like, oh, I gave them bad advice, right? So like we tend to give other people like go the safe route, like just do it safe. You know what I mean? Because we don't want to feel that personal guilt of like giving them bad advice. I mean, I think that's like part of it at least, right? Like your parents are never going to tell you to quit your job, like unless you come from a rich family.
Right, right. And even them, like they're probably pushing their kids even harder on something like I, a lot of rich people is self-earned and shit, so like they teach their kids these special ways to
Oh
hold
yeah,
on
no,
to it.
totally. Yeah. I just mean that like
They do have that ability to say, hey, go find yourself
yeah,
for a
like
year.
unless they can, because then it's like, well, you became an artist, but at least I can make sure you're not homeless, right? Like you can sort of lessen that burden of giving them the wrong advice, maybe. But yeah, I mean, my parents have been very supportive for sure. So
And then so you're doing obviously really well with the marketing too. Have you had any marketing experience in it? How like how do you find that? Because it's not like you were saying earlier, it's not just about being an artist, it's also about being more and
yeah.
creating a product. So like you get the whole big picture.
Oh yeah. So God, I guess that's really my dad because he's like a product designer. But I started out running like an Instagram like online like glass gallery. Like that's where I was first selling work. That's how I met like Steve and like Dirk originally is through just like selling glass. So I had a little bit of social media experience. I did when I was in college. I didn't finish. I'm a dirty dropout, but I did
No, there's nothing wrong with that. I think college is a waste, and it's you're taught shit you don't fucking need to know. And if you need that knowledge, you can go to college and get it. But man, they teach you, just like you said, a dirty dropout. Bullshit, man. I didn't go to college. And a lot of people go there and are looked at as bad to become a plumber, electrician, or a glass artist.
Oh, no, yeah.
Right. You
Well,
don't need that.
So I was studying like they called it HCC. So it's like it has to do with how we interface with like computers, and it's mostly about like taking statistics and like interpreting how people like, you know, navigate a website, right? Like you go to this page, you go to this page, like how do you optimize it so people do that better? It's kind of like how people like what the Instagram Reels algorithm is trying to do to us all the time. It's trying to figure out. So I think I've had, you know, success doing things like that, like making Instagram Reels, you know what I mean, where it's all about like how people interact with the video you put in front of them.
Right, right. So knowing that, having your dad a little bit of experience there, going to college, finding that and learning those things, whether it was there. You got what you needed out of college.
I minored in like math, so I took like Calc 1, 2. I took multivariate calc, and I definitely used a lot of that.
So you're pretty intelligent.
Fascinating visual projections. Yeah, I can't. No, I definitely not a lot of those things. You know, you can't really say you're self-taught, right? And like I was saying earlier, like I got into it and I was inspired. Like I wouldn't have known that you could take like show an opal and then show a second one and then show a third one if I hadn't seen other people like do that, right? So it's very like
it's built on your environment.
Self-taught, right? Like you do, like I taught, you know, I might have learned how to use the faceting arm by myself, but I didn't, but somebody else created that resource for me.
Right.
At a certain point.
Right. No, I love how you do that. It's because it is all the knowledge and things are out there. You just got to try to figure out how to get it, ask questions, open the world out. And dude, I love it, man.
For sure. Yeah. I think that there's like a lot of, you know, I think that like heady pipes are like the only thing that aliens would come to our planet and be like, what is that? Like, you weren't supposed to know how to do that. Like, you know what I mean? It's very like, it's very just the whole concept is like out of this worldly. And like, yeah.
So
I feel
with that, do you feel like art or just glass art is like that, like the most craziest medium out there where you can do it in liquid hot form, and then you can also take it to cold and then like you said, fire polish it and bring it back if you had to, and it's just
you know, and it's like my whole thing, and like, you know, what I'm trying to do with my glass blowing now is like play around with the like lensing and the manipulation of light through that like clear glass. But like you said, like as a medium, like it really is like physics and like three-dimensional forms like combined, you know, because you can just do like, there really is nothing else like it. There's not really a like three-dimensional like medium that you interact with the inside of what you're working on in the same way. Like, it's definitely it's a wild rush, and the Boro community is really cool. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I really I've met and interact with a lot of cool people who are just like about like they just want to support trippy artists doing their thing, right?
Right. It's cool, man. It's cool.
Yeah. Like it draws in the type of people who, like you said, like, you know, they might not seek out that like conventional like education, but you really like you have to be somebody who's willing to go down the like beaten path a little bit to become a glass blower. Like you got to learn and listen to other people and like just be willing to go in and burn yourself every day. Like, you know, not always, but like, break your piece and burn yourself financially.
It is. It's, you know, but that's kind of life. And I think that's the neat thing about being a glass blower is like, it almost feels like or an artist, maybe it's almost the truest sense of like maybe animalistic life, because it is an up and a down. You got to put the fucking time into it, just like in the wild. If you're not hunting for those berries and hunting for the nuts, come winter, it's hard, and you gotta learn how to get those nuts and outsmart the next critter. And whatever it would be. And that's like this. And an artist is hard.
Yeah. Well, I think, well, I mean, for me, I feel like being an artist in a certain sense is like, you know, inventing it, to use your analogy, it's like inventing your own type of like berry, imaginary berries that the other squirrels can't see. And then of course you're the king of that. Like, of course I'm the best wigwag faceter, marble faceter, this category I've made up for myself, right? You know what I mean? But that's, you know, that's how you find style, right? You find your imaginary berries to go and fight yourself for.
I fucking love that analogy, man. That is so awesome. Dude, so with what you're doing, like you are collaborating a lot. Do you see yourself collaborating with more artists just because of what you do and how they can attach, and then that you can maybe take their things and attach to things down the road? Or
yeah, that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping to definitely get more like faceted attachments on stuff. You know what I mean? Have more like opal attachments on whatever. Definitely hoping to do more. Me and Steve, like Steve makes Slinks Glass makes like recyclers, and he makes little heady tubes, right? And he puts wigwag sections on the bottom. I've been pestering him forever, like let's like slap one, you know, on the backside. But he's humble. He's like really humble. He's like, oh, I want it to be like good and perfect. You know what I mean? If we were to do XYZ, that's just his attitude, you know. And I think that yeah, like in a lot of ways, being a glass artist, like it like benefits the humble. It benefits the people who are like, I'm not gonna do this right, so I've got to do it like 100 times, you know, to get it right. You know what I mean?
yeah, and that is a crazy thing about glass, because it's, you know, I ask, how long do you spend on this piece? And in the reality, that's the easy question and the like bullshit one, because it's how long did you spend on learning the process? What failed? Because I'm sure if you do something and you slice it wrong, it's like, fuck, man, like there's
no stopper, no cheater.
You know, so
that's so like the arm I use is like there's nothing physically stopping the plate from like grinding. You know what I mean? The thing that's stopping it is me like lining it all up. You know what I'm saying?
So you can just keep going down and just like grind it
and
flat,
ruin my whole night in like 2 seconds. Yeah. I don't like watch TV or anything while I'm working.
So I bet, I'm wondering, because I haven't done any fastening. I've ground some graphite, but you know, it's a lot of did I get it right? And then going back down and did I get it right? So I'm assuming that while you have that angle there, it's still a lot of, do I cut more hair or just a little bit more? And
the depth you cut, you know, and that's the trickiest part, you know, when you're faceting, is finding the point where, you know, you're going to save the most time. So when you need to remove material, you remove material. That's the roughest thing you're doing, right? You're going to be using your lowest plate. When do you switch to your next pad that, you know, is going to cut a lot slower, but it's going to cut a lot slower? So if you stop too early, you know, you spend too much time in your pre-polish, and your pre-polish is a little bit softer. It has a little bit more give, like the red pad. Shout out to the 600 grit red pad, carries the whole team. Like when, you know, if you just try to use that, it's not going to be as defined of a surface as when you begin with this like rough, solid grit. So you got to use the fast plate, then you got to switch to the slow plate. But the slow plate, you know, you need, that is putting a finer surface on what you're cutting. So you need to, you know, begin polishing early enough that you can get a nice finish on it, that you can, you know, finish it and polish it out. So it's, and you know, you can waste a lot of time pre-polishing, right? So you do have to be like, you got to be efficient, or you'll just like waste your time doing it. And what I say is like a good way to think about the difference between like cold working and hot working, like blowing glass, is that I have a pause button like on my you know, I just pull it off the pad. I can stop, look at what I'm doing, continue, like it's very fixed. like set up and angled where, you know, when you're working hot, you've got to keep spinning until it's done. Like you, in the same way you can pause glass by, you know, not having it be hot, but you're not able to have the same type of like control and like slow movingness of it all.
Right. So even that, just figuring out all the angles and then switching pads, doing it all over again.
Yeah.
And then,
yeah.
so how many times is that? Is that 3 pads that you use, or and then you?
I'll do 3. I used to use 4 sometimes, but I mostly do 3, and I do extra, a little extra on the polish, the cerium oxide. Glass is, in lapidary terms, you know, what like the grinding and repolishing of surfaces, like lapidary world, glass is really soft. So typically they're working on like stone or something. And so our polish, I always use the analogy that it's like, how many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop? Like your polishing pad goes very slowly and it'll like rub things out, but it does remove material. Like you will, you could sit there and polish a marble into nothing. You know, it'd be like one of those museum exhibits where in 1,000 years, right?
Right.
It'll like get through it, but yeah, that's probably the thing I get asked the most questions about. That's, you know, one of my favorite parts. If you look back in like old like cold working groups or anything like that, I would ask so many freaking questions, man. Like I would go every day, I'd have an issue. Like, how do I do this? How do I do this? How do I do this? And the fact that within like 5 minutes, 3 people will give you detailed answers in any glass community. If you're trying to, you know, go to the glass blowing groups, right, on Facebook and have an issue with your oxygen tank, and people will help you, right? It's like it's that type of attitude. So I love, like, one of my favorite parts that I always make sure that whenever somebody asks me a question about like, what do they do with their equipment? Like, you know, you got to take the time to answer them. Right.
Right. Dude, I love it, man. I love it. And this is all so new to me. Like I've touched a wheel, but I've never faceted anything, man. So it's just so neat to hear it and how it's done. And the outcome is just, it's crazy, and how you're just finding all those different things and the fractal pattern. I don't know.
Yeah, it's been fun. I love it. Like my least favorite part is having to like ship them out to people. Like I just love, like, you know, you got to enjoy your own work.
So you would almost prefer, if you could, find those little magic berries and keep them all for yourself.
Totally. Totally. Yeah, there are a lot of projects that I really wish I had back. Like really, and I'm by no means a rich man, but I would probably buy them back. Like, you know what I mean? Like I really yeah, I mostly too, because like there are some things early on in my career, you know, like I spent like 12, 14 hours, I might have gotten $100 for it. Like I might have gotten like no money, right? So it's like, well, I'll definitely give you $150 for that like day and a half of my life back. Like, please. But yeah.
So there's a lot of sentimental stuff to a lot of them as well.
Oh yeah, totally. You know, there's so many like cool little yeah, they almost become like time markers for like periods of your life. You know, like you always listen to that one song, that one summer of like 06 or whatever. Like you got I look through my old photos and I'm like, I remember that weekend, like I was doing this XYZ.
That's pretty cool. I like how you mentioned that, you know, each part is a little time marker. And
yeah, like, and I definitely try my best to put like symbolism and meaning into the work.
Right. Do you have any hobbies outside of glass, or has this glass thing with the faceting and the hot work, has it just consumed you completely?
That's it pretty much has consumed me. I play some video games. I used to make music and like rap and do a lot of stuff like that. Play the saxophone. If you ever get me drinking.
Multi-talented.
Oh yeah, no, not like to the point where if somebody else has a guitar, like, you know, I can play it. yeah, I don't know if not a ton crazy ton of hobbies. We went me and my studio mates went golfing. I had never been golfing before for the first time for it was his bachelor party, and that was pretty cool.
Regular golf or frisbee golf?
It was real golf. Like I had never like, worn a polo shirt and like driven around in golf carts, you know what I mean? Done that shit. That was fun. Oh yeah, like skateboarding, longboarding. Yeah, no, I have hobbies.
Yeah.
I do things. I guess like videography, has definitely become a hobby. Like I've been trying to make more like videos and reels that are showing like what we do at the building I work in. I work in a building with like probably like 8 other glass artists, like glass blowers. There are 3 other in my studio. Then I got a couple friends in the basement, and then there's like a local glass shop that like runs the studio in the attic of this place, and like, you know what I mean? And it's got like glass art history like included in it, like Jason Lord. I don't know if you know him.
Yep.
He makes the like square. He used to like, he came up in this building, and like he came and visited, and he was really, really nice to me. Like I was still, still really starting out, like, and I got to my friend Chuck, Cosmic Charlie. I got to his studio, and I had like gotten down, and I started talking to like this dude that Chuck had over. I didn't know who he was. And I asked him when I first came in, like, oh, do you blow glass? Like, you're in the pipe to me. And he says no. And like Chuck is there. And then I talked to him for like an hour and a half. He seems like he knows a bunch about glass. That's why I asked him. And then he just sort of like stands up, and he like puts on his glass blowing glasses, you know what I mean? And he starts like blowing glass. And I was like, oh shit, like this dude is like lying to me, but no, he was really like really super nice to me, super humble guy. Like, yeah. And so he he helped teach my friend Cosmic Charlie, like Chuck, how to start, and he's helped me a lot in my like glass blowing career. We had like Eric Anders glass used to like work in this building, like, so a lot of people, like legacy and history to it.
Yeah,
sure.
that's so cool, man. Yeah. That's really awesome. You got all these different names coming there, built on. And so, you get to have all this extra knowledge around you, and more so, you found your own school of knowledge. And that's why I always kind of talk shit on college. Like, man, you can find this shit. You can find the knowledge if that's what you want to do. So.
Yeah. The process of learning and like obsession, for sure. Yeah, I always say like I've got a very, very like lucky and like privileged like bring into the glass world, you know what I mean? Like I was just lucky to be in Rochester, New York. Like when you're Corning, like I have a lot of like resources around me.
Mm-hmm. It's nice to recognize that, know that, and taking advantage of your environment, because right, if you weren't there, you might be somewhere else. But I think with you having the balls to just quit school and do that, you would have probably got up and moved somewhere to find what you needed. So I don't know, but you obviously are a passionate mofo, and
like, well, I'm passionate about fastening glass. Like I have been doing that. Yeah, it's been my little obsession as of late.
What can we look forward to in the future from you?
Bunch more functionals, more. I have opal attachments coming in from people. Heady collabs, they're happening. Like I have, I've done a couple like cool ones. Still gonna keep doing wigwag marbles. That's what people can definitely expect, is like more wigwag mood mats and like merchandise. Hopefully very soon. I'm trying to like, I've been working with a graphic designer buddy of mine to make like graphical representations of like, my designs, and then the like wigwag terminations and all that. I'm getting graphical representations of like Steve's wigwag millies, right? And then like the designs, and sort of like transplanting them on each other, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Yeah, some kind of.
It looks sick, right? It's like I just trying to get. It's hard when you're starting out as an artist, getting the money together for crap like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
definitely a struggle. But
and then your ideas will grow more, and then you'll have more to do, and then it'll always. If the struggle's what you make it. So
I used to really worry about like running ideas, and I've just it's come to the point where it's like I have so many ideas that I know I'll never get around to doing, right? Like you just once you start doing something, you really gotta like do something to understand it, to think about it, and like learn, learn to think about what you're doing and how to like apply it. Like I used to always, whenever I'd see like, just like tiling or like cuts on like the side of a building or something, I'd imagine how I converted that to faceting like coordinates. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, and that must be the math thing in your head and all that stuff that's just doing it. And again, you found the perfect field that can just exploit your mind to create this stuff. And it's like almost that like the industry is exploiting your mind. The glass is exploiting you, taking.
Oh yeah, no, I'm totally exploiting myself. That's perfect, because that's really what it feels like. It feels like I'm exploiting myself, like in order to see the next one, like that curiosity, Yeah. No, yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's really fun.
And then where can we all go to find stuff and find all your stuff? You have Instagram, do you have a website? What's the best place to find all your work?
Right now I'm posting all of my work to Etsy. I'm trying to get off of that because they just raised the fee. My Instagram page is definitely like, that's where I'm the most active. I post stuff. If you got Reddit, like I post on Reddit a bunch. Far Out Facets is my handle for everything. Far Out Flameworking is if you want to follow me, like blow glass and make, pipes with weird negative lens attachments and stuff like that. That's definitely, Far Out Facets. Instagram is definitely the best. Like that's my default place I go to. I also have a Facebook group, Far Out Facets Cologne, that is just for like appreciation and like posting, showing off your work,
right?
Or showing off your marvels from me. Yeah.
Hell yeah. Well, I think that's where people need to go. Check you out, get your stuff, support you, and get their minds fucking blown.
Yeah, dude. Thank you. That's the hope, right? I hope people see something that makes them scratch their heads a little bit. Right?
Hell yeah.
All right, man.
Well, Far Out Facets, thanks a lot, man. You have a kick-ass time, and thank you for joining and sharing this your adventures with us, and just sharing it, man.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure. That was really fun, man.